Can you hear me now? Awesome. Shut up. All right, morning everybody. My name is Jon Peer, and I'm here to talk about geocaching to all 10 of you. So, anybody hear of geocaching before? Yes, awesome. I knew you 3 did or 4 did, because you were here last year. Awesome. So, if you haven't heard of it, this is kind of going to be an introductory lesson in it, I guess you could say. But basically, geocaching is using GPS to find different caches anywhere around. I mean, they're everywhere. I have an assortment of different types up here that we'll talk about later. But it's basically using the GPS satellites to geolocate or orienteer to the specific position to find the cache and then log it, basically. So what is geocaching? At its very base level, it's a game or adult scavenger hunt. There are some family-friendly, depending on the cache, but for the most part, it's kind of an adult-aimed game. But basically, it's the getting outside, using GPS, adventuring, seeing what you can find. Primary means of finding caches are going to be different, anything with GPS on it, really. I started out using this. Wow, that really got loud. eTruck's Legend, old school method. It's just basically it's just a GPS. Hand enter all your coordinates, or you can upload via a really expensive cable that I never got. Initially, moved from this real quickly to smartphones. Much easier to use, paperless. Just download an app off the phone. Android's the best. iPhone really kind of sucks. Anybody use BlackBerry anymore? They're solvent, aren't they? What? So smartphone, I think, is the easiest to use, the best to use. Alternatively, Garmin's coming out, or not Garmin, Magellan, came out with a GPS handheld, the same, except this is specifically set up for geocaching. So it connects, you can upload or any caches you want from it. It still requires a computer, similar to this, but this is set up more specifically for what we want to do. So this one's actually bricked right now. So go with the phone, personally. Best of all, geocaching is generally free. I mean, there are paid portions of it, but at the base level, you can get away with not paying anything for it. All right, so why geocaching? You get out of geocaching what you put into it. I mean, generally, you're out there just for the adventure, or you're out there you're looking to rack up large numbers. The number one cacher, since I did this since I built this slide on Tuesday night, I had to increase this number by around 150 because between Tuesday night and this morning, this number one geocacher logged another 150 caches. So he's up to, 64,500 caches right now. Since I gave this presentation last year, he's up just about 13,000 caches. So on average, he logs 35 a day, every single day of the year. Are you shaking your head no at me? It is ridiculous. He came in on the ground floor of geocaching. He's a charter member, and he's retired. Lives in California. He's basically a professional geocacher. Has an RV, just goes around. That's all he does is geocaching. It is ridiculous. I mean, he's the second number 2 person is just barely up to what he was at a year ago. So, yeah, he's been around a while. He doesn't do a whole lot outside of geocaching. So, I looked this morning, and I mean, geocaches are everywhere. I've placed 2 in the general area. There's another 18 total caches in 1 mile around where we're at right now. You'll never see them unless you're looking for them, though. So, get into cache types, kind of what I have up here. These are all that I have up here are going to fall into the traditional. Traditional just means it's a physical cache. You locate whatever it is, open it up, there's going to be a log inside, there might be trinkets, kind of dollar store crap normally. That's kind of the family kid portion of geocaching. So yeah, it's just going to be a standard physical box. Multi-cache is going to be a multi-stage cache. Basically what you'll do is you'll find several physical containers, and the first container will give you coordinates to the second to the third, to n number of stages. And once you get to the final stage, that's where you're going to do your logging. Takes some more time, puts more adventure into it, and it requires a bit more, not skill, but preparation when going out for it. Letterbox hybrid is, it's transitioned over to geocaching from another similar sport called letterboxing. And it's basically the exact same thing, except you carry around stamps and a stamp pad, and you stamp onto the log, and you take the log and you grab the stamp that's in their letterbox and stamp your own sheet. Kind of like passports. So you acquire different stamps. So letterbox hybrid basically means there's the stamp functionality in the cache as well as just a normal log to log on. Event caches are kind of like what we're doing here today. It's an event. They're very, very black and white, strict on it's got to be for geocachers by geocachers. This is the second year I've done this. Second year they've denied my event cache because the primary people here are not geocachers. They're dicks about it, basically. It's not like, I'm not driving revenue to them or anything, but, Unknown cache. It's a cache that's out there. It could be one of a couple things. There's grandfathered caches that are listed as unknown that are, can't think of what they're called now. I'll call them ghost caches, but that's not really what they're called. But they really don't exist. There's no physical find. Basically, you're going to go to a spot, you're going to look at a plaque or something, you're going to report back to the cache owner a certain set of numbers or a certain date to acknowledge that you've been there. Maybe you have to take a picture, send it to them, just to acknowledge that you've been to a certain spot, but there's no physical signing or anything. Also under unknown cache, there's another grandfathered in one that's webcam caches, where people have webcams set up, and basically you have to go to that cache, stand in front of the webcam, pull up your phone, take a screen image of you looking at yourself on your phone through the webcam, and send it, and that's your acknowledgement of the cache. There's a variety that fall in unknown, and it's just basically if you have something that doesn't fall into one of the other ones, most likely you're going to be unknown. Cytos are cache in, trash out. Part of geocaching that they've built in is basically cleaning up the areas that are around caches. Going out, making sure, there's not a bunch of trash shitting all around, and it's kind of a clean up the area. That everybody's outside, so you want to keep it clean and whatnot. Earth caches are a bit more involved on the cache owner portion, and basically to get an earth cache, what you need to have is some geological aspect of where your cache is. So be it as a river or an underground spring, different kind of plains. Most of them are really interesting. They do require a whole lot more work on the owner's end to find the spot and give a bunch of information. So it's really like a learning event for earth caches. Generally, they require you to do some calculations. I know there's some that require you to test the pH of the water where you're at or calculate the rate of flow based on different things. And then the last cache type, Where I Go. Where I Go is a newer cache type, hasn't really taken off, but it's you build an application that runs on a Where I Go player, and it takes you through different steps. Kind of might be a game that you have to play. I know I played one that was like baseball, and you play through the game, and you learn, or you get different knowledge about where you're trying to go by playing the game. Hasn't been done a whole lot because I don't think anybody's really taken the time to code caches out there or to even look into them to do them. That one's really new though, but still interesting. So we have cache sizes. Again, these are all traditional here, but if you can probably can't see a whole lot from where you're at, but Q&A, I'll have these upstairs. So starting off with the smallest, micros. We got a couple micros up here. Quite tiny indeed. Those are a couple of, well, I guess they fall under micro. They're technically called nanos, but only hold, obviously, a log. Can't fit much else in there. Other micros would be something like these. Smaller, generally only going to hold the log. Fit them in more urban places where, I mean, something like this would stick out. Another micro I have is right on the front here. It's just a plate cover. Has a couple magnets on the back, so if I can put it on a metal surface and it looks just like a plate cover. Anybody walking by, it's plain sight, but you'd never know it's there unless you were geocaching and looking for it. Small size caches is going to be something that can hold more than just a log. Drug containers, peanut butter, stuff like that. It holds a bit more swag. I've got this cache here that's got a handful of, really it's just kids' toys, army men. Here, entertain yourself. I know. So small caches could be a bit bigger in size. Regular, large, just you get into different sizes. This one would probably qualify as a large cache just because, I mean, you could put just about anything in there. So I like to camouflage the caches depending on where they're going. If it's not going to be, if it's going to be completely concealed, I don't care enough, and I'll just leave it like this. But I mean, if it's going to be potentially visible, I'll camo it in some form or fashion. Duct tape camo from Meyer, not hard to find. But I should say, ammo boxes. This is where geocaching started. Before any other types, all that was placed were ammo boxes. Military surplus stores. Interesting to find because they can hold a ton of shit. Other caches, just a random size. If you don't want to, you can choose other. If you don't want to tell people kind of what they're looking for. We do have one cache up here. Fake rock. Easily hidden in a bunch of other rocks just to piss people off. So, yeah, I mean, this one, I don't know. I bought this one offline, and I don't really care for how it's set up. It's kind of cheaply made, and it doesn't really, look like a real rock. But so, I took a screenshot of the Nauticon 8. It's my cache that's around the Hilton here from last year. So circled in there on the cache page. This is the top of the cache page, and that the size is going to be circled in red there. Difficulty and terrain ratings. Same screenshot. There it shows where the difficulty and terrain ratings are. Difficulty means how hard is it going to be for you to find this cache, based on size, based on location, how much of a pain in the ass is it going to be. Where terrain basically qualifies how difficult is the terrain that you're going to be walking on. Do you have to? I mean, we've climbed trees, we've waded through water. Basically, how difficult they want to make it for you. Obviously, it runs on a scale of 1 through 5, using half increments in between there. So a 1's the easiest, 5's the hardest. So talking about apps for your phone, smartphones. Obviously, Android would be the preference. It seems to have the best development out there right now. CGO is the best, and it's free, which makes it that much better. It was originally created by a guy over in Denmark. He ran with it for several years, violating the TOS of the geocaching site. Until recently, geocaching came out with an API for other third-party development. The guy who originally created it, Carnero, got out because he was tired of dealing with geocaching's bullshit, really. And it was taken over, and they changed the name to CGO Open Source. And right now it's run by several different people who work on it. It's really made the app a whole lot better. So it's a lot more flexible. They had an issue where geocaching took away their old map set. So it was kind of down for a couple weeks, but they came up with something new, and it works just as good as before now. And then, of course, Groundspeak. Parent company of geocaching. They have their own app, $10. Gets mixed reviews online. How do you like that app, Mark? Like it a lot? All right. So, might be something to check into. If you have an iPhone, that's your only choice, really. I looked on the App Store. There's absolutely nothing else out there for geocaching. So, but yeah, that's the geocaching or Groundspeak apps available on both Android and iPhone. I looked in the BlackBerry store, and there's a couple out there, CacheSense and Geocache Navigator. They seem to get decent ratings. I don't have a BlackBerry, so I've never tried it out. I don't think anybody have a BlackBerry that geocaches. No, nobody has BlackBerries. Delete. All right, so like I said before, the geocaching is primarily free. You can do just about anything you want in geocaching at no cost. Alternative to that, there's a premium membership. I'm a fan of. I know Mark's a fan of. He just re-upped for his second year. He signed up last year at the Q&A session after my talk. But it's $30 a year, not that expensive, kind of nice for what you get out of it. But your primary benefits here are automatic notification. When a new cache is placed, you can set up a certain target around your, well, I guess whatever location. Generally, it's your home location. And to notify you via email, or I set mine up to text, when a new cache is placed. So if you want to see it when it comes out, you want to try and be the first person there, kind of like on, web posts when you get people go in, they just fucking type first. Hate those people. But there's kind of, not really challenges, but I mean, getting first to finds is kind of a prize in and of itself. Just saying you beat everybody else out there. Depending on your region, that might be harder than others. I know over in the Kalamazoo Portage area, there's a lot of people with nothing to do. A lot of fucking free time. So it's rare to get a first to find in Kalamazoo because they don't work or they don't care about work. But so automatic notification. I know I get through email. I got 2 texts last night. Not that I can go get a first to find in Kalamazoo right offhand, but pocket queries. It's basically a guided query setup. It just obviously runs SQL in the background. And allows you to put together different queries on caches you want to find. I built a pocket query this morning just to see how many caches were around Cleveland to get that 18 in the 1 mile. So it's interesting, especially if you're looking for certain types of caches. It really gives you the flexibility to find if you're looking for certain things. Difficulty, terrain levels, location. Another pocket query is caches along a route. It allows you to pick a start point, end point, distance off of the main road that you'll be traveling, and it just pulls caches along. So if you're traveling from A to B, you can find what's out there. Member-only caches, there's several out there. Basically, they only show up if you're a premium member. Normally posted by premium members, for premium members. Not a whole lot out there. I mean, you kind of lose some of the adventure when you kind of hiding it from a majority of the people. And lastly is just lists. It's a basic feature, really, but they allow you to create lists to kind of group certain caches together if you want to remember it for a later time. So here's my new goal for, this summer, really. This is up. Does anybody know where Petoskey is? Awesome. So this is just southeast of Petoskey. This is what's called the Power Trail. Originally started over, I want to say it's in New Mexico or Arizona. There was a power trail where they recommended you carry extra tanks of gasoline, extra water, and make sure you have your brake checks before you go. Because it was like a probably 50-mile stretch with a cache placed every 1/10 of a mile. So you'd be just going, stopping, going, stopping. It's just a giant highway through the desert. There's a couple power trails right here up in northern Michigan, just southeast of Petoskey. You get the BRRPT, which goes from the top left down to about right in here. And then the rest are the SAG caches. BRRP is Bear River Road Power Trail, and SAG is the Straits area geocachers. So it's probably about 30 miles to do the entire loop, and there's 235 main caches as part of those. There's going to be other caches sprinkled in. I mean, the ones I'm looking at are just straight line. So ideally, you could go and hope to get 235 caches in a matter of a couple hours, depending on how quick you drive, how many stops you need to make for food. So I hope to take care of that one this summer, which would be nice. So here's last year's cache. This is published out there. I kept this slide in case anybody wanted to see it. Every cache is defined by a GC code, just a unique code up top there. And it's reference ID field. This one's Nauticon 8 from last year. If anybody's interested in going out, find it. I am going to take it down, archive the cache tomorrow, just because it's been up for a year now. Take it down, and I have a Nauticon 9 cache going out there. Coordinates, specific details on it. Nothing too interesting there. Most people have already seen it or found it. So here's the Nauticon 9 cache. This isn't publicized yet. Outside of 3 of us in here, nobody else knows where it's at. So has a GC code. You won't be able to find it on the website because it's not published. And it's actually going to be moving from these coordinates now because I screwed up and tried to slide it by the damn Ohio reviewers, and their hard asses down here apparently. So I need to move it slightly from where it's going to be at, but that probably won't be until later tonight, tomorrow. What I'll do is I'll post the new coordinates on the sheet out in the hallway that lists the cache, or lists the talks, not the caches. So if anybody's interested, can write down the coordinates, more specific information. It's just another micro, similar as last year. Last year's was just a key hider. It's out back. This one's out. You actually have to venture further away from the hotel. Taking pictures. Take a picture, it lasts longer. So, shameless plug. This store is where I got most of my cache materials up here from. Well, the ones that obviously I didn't ingest. So I got most of the containers up here. They're the cheapest place I found. They're cheaper than the Groundspeak site, which is great because I'd rather go with somebody else outside of Groundspeak if I'm buying it. I actually contacted them to see if I could get swag to pass out, but they never got back to me, which is unfortunate. So yeah, they're a good store, cheap, fast shipping. I think I ordered on, was it Friday night, and I had it Monday. And that was with just normal ground post office shipping. So my contact info, if anybody wants to get a hold of me, geocaching handles Team PV. You can look me up on the geocaching website. You laugh because you know. So I guess that is all I have. Are there any questions? No? Thank you much. They have a certain rule set, and personally they're too black and white for me. I've never really had an issue in Michigan, but in Ohio they seem to know the rule set a whole lot and enforce it. I mean, when I placed the Nauticon 9 cache out there, I'm like literally 5 to 10 feet off of the 0.1 mile. They have a saturation rule where you have to be, caches can't be closer than 0.1 mile from each other, physical or an invisible stage of like a multi-cache. And I'm like 5 to 10 feet off of that. Thought I could get it by them. Nope, they quoted several different numbers of where I violated. Oh, you're 499 feet away. You're 515. So I'll have to move that one. The event cache, I mean, I tried to push it past them. They denied it, I appealed. They denied it, I appealed. And I mean, their only fight was, is this for geocachers, by geocachers? Well, no, it's not. I'm giving a talk at a technology conference to interest people. I'm driving them to your site. I'm driving them to pay $30 like I know 2 people did last year. They don't see the forest for the trees. So overall they're not bad. They're not that big yet. but all the reviewers are volunteers, and it's really volunteer run, but they do have an HQ and certain paid. Yep, it started over in Europe, I believe, and it's grown from there. And then when it got over to the States, Groundspeak kind of took it up and made it their own, really, and they've expanded from there. So I mean, there's hundreds, well, not hundreds of thousands. There's millions of caches. I had a number last year, but there's probably in the range of 4 million caches out in the world right now. Any other questions? The letters? Sure. Some acronyms, right? How is, yeah. All right, so go this way. Basically, when you log a cache physically, if you're going paperless, like on your smartphone, which I'd prefer to go, no sense in printing shit out. From like the CGO app, you can log your cache online. I mean, you log it physically, and then once you're done, you'd go back to a computer, or if you're using a phone, log in your phone, just saying you found it. Give any condition notes. I mean, if the log's full or shit's broke, you'd want to notify the cache owner so they can come out and do maintenance on it, take care of whatever needs to be done. But a lot of things you'll find in the logs are kind of they're acronyms, just for better sake of not having to type shit out. TFTC is thanks for the cache. You get a lot of people logging that, or even in closing, instead of saying just thanks, they just put in TFTC. Well, sign log is SL. That one's not very fun. Took nothing, left nothing. Basically, they found a cache where there was swag available. They took nothing, left nothing. You'll see variations of that. Took nothing, left something. What can you think of any other? Those are the basic ones I can. Those are the main ones that you'll see. Yeah, I'm not gonna log into there. Yeah, I mean CITO, which we already talked about, CITO, cache and trash out. Can't really think of anything else. Those are going to be the primary ones you see, and I mean you'll use. Yes, did not find. More of a I guess more of a log type than what they type, but yeah, happens. Any other questions? No? All right, yes. Get started. I mean, if you have a smartphone, I'd definitely recommend going that way. Ideally, like how I got started is I came across a site, and I found a map space I wanted to go find stuff on, find the caches on, and printed that out just for directions before I even had my base GPS. Print it out, and then printed out the details of each cache. Yeah, just geocaching.com. Yeah, they there's other websites out there like Open Caching. I think it's by Garmin. And they don't cross sites. So like if you post one cache on geocaching, it's not going to be on the other. And geocaching is the monopoly in the market, really. But yeah, I mean, we printed out maps, printed out the details, and just drove to where we thought we could get close enough, and really dirty cached it because we didn't have a GPS to really direct us to where we were going. Dirty caching is just taking your best effort and not really knowing where you're headed. So yeah, once you get to the phones or GPS phone apps, I mean, it would be the same way. You download it to that, and at least that'll give you a more defined where you're going. You'll find a lot of caches are placed in what's called skirt lifters. Basically, the metal cover that's at the base of a lamppost, like in a parking lot. They lift up, and you'll find caches in there. You'll also find a lot of fucking hornets. That is ridiculously annoying. It's to the point where when I go up to that, I'll kick it just to see if anything comes out, and then lift it up. I mean, we were up. I was in a business trip up in Petoskey a couple weeks ago, and we went geocaching after. And I lifted one up. Luckily, it was like 40 degrees out. Lifted one up, and there's just a giant hive, and they're just all over it. But they're dormant because it was so cold out, which was awesome. So I pulled it out, signed it, put it back in, fucking got out of there. Yes, that's really the only one that's kind of annoying because they can get in there and it's easy access for them. It's also really easy access for us. You'll find them all over the place. I mean, if you went to any given parking lot, if you go to a Meijer or a Walmart now those are the two biggest ones. There's generally always going to be at least 2 to 3 caches in any of their parking lots, everywhere. It's just it's almost become a standard for people to place them there. Bugs, travel bugs. God, man, I really sucked at this presentation this year. Travel bugs, I wish I'd brought some. Yeah, travel bugs, it's basically a trinket of sorts that you attach a travel bug to. Now, the travel bug, it's like a moving geocache, if you will. You log where you picked it up at. You'd find a cache, you would have a travel bug in it. If you wanted to move it, you take that travel bug out, and it's going to have a name, why it's there, and it's going to have some form of mission. But basically, its mission is to move it from place to place. Some people say it wants to visit every NFL stadium in the country. And so, I mean, if you pick it up, your goal is to, I'm going to take it near this stadium and call that visiting it. But pick up the travel bug, you log, you've picked it out of a certain place, you take it to another place and move it. Generally, they want to move more frequently. So if you find travel bugs in like random outlying spots, you kind of want to move them to where other people might pick them up at. I went out to Utah a couple of years ago, and I picked up a travel bug that was trying to go around the world, so I moved it from Michigan out to Utah, dropped it off there, and hopefully somebody else would then ideally pick it up and keep moving it. I have one travel bug out somewhere. I think it's down in Kentucky right now. Started off in Michigan, so it just moves with the caches as they move around the country. Any other questions? No? All right, if not, we're going to have a Q&A in one of the rooms upstairs. I have no idea yet. And then if anybody's interested in going out and finding some geocaches, we'll definitely do that. Thank you all.